live stream. It's been a little while since we've last done one of these. Many things have happened, but today I am joined here by Mr. Mark on motoring. So yeah, hopefully this should be a good one. I think realistically with this one, going to focus mainly on French vehicles because naturally that's where I guess our interests lie. I think is probably the best way of describing it.
Yeah, that's it.
Probably the best way of describing it. Oh, right. So I've got this on playback on the PC because, well, I can't see the chat on my phone, and because of the unique way that YouTube works with everything, to say the least. Yeah, this is just the easiest way for me to do it. So if I look slightly away from the camera, that is why. And hello, Simone. Welcome to the live stream. So yes, let's start with what we've been doing recently then, before we get into significant French.
Mainly fixing broken French cars.
Oh no, I'm having some technical issues myself. I can't hear what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Hello.
Yeah, primarily getting French cars with that.
Yeah, so obviously with YouTube and stream like that, it doesn't always necessarily work out how the way you planned it, does it? To say the least. Audio is poor. Okay. Starting this again. See if that helps it. I know we've tried this about 4 or 5 times off camera. But
is it my audio that you're struggling with?
Let's ask the audience. The two of you that are part of this at the minute, who's bad at the minute? Is it both of us? Is it just me? Is it just Mark? Please let us know. We'll try and fix it as best we can. I'll have a quick drink. Yes, chap in the grey. That's you, I'm afraid, then, Mark.
Right. All I can think is it could be the connection to the microphone. So what we'll do, we'll just unplug that. Right, so now I should be coming through the phone's microphone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Audience, can you hear what Mark's got to say? It's a bit weird for me because I'm watching this on my PC screen as well, and I can just see like there's a bit of a delay. So your lips are moving on there, and you've already spoken.
Very tinny. Yeah, I thought that might be the case. That's why I'm trying to use a separate microphone instead.
Yeah, the wonders of technology, eh? Well, yeah. What should we try and do? Do you want to try and restart this again, or do you want to just try and go with it?
How about now? Is that better? A bit better.
That's okay, my end.
Yeah.
All I'm using at the minute is my phone microphone.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, everyone happy? Carry on from there.
Sorry, I know live stream shouldn't be like this, but unfortunately YouTube is the way YouTube is, so.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try it anyway, see what happens. So, yeah, lately with me, I have been very, very busy going to shows and things on a pretty regular basis, to be perfectly honest. Plenty of events as well. I actually can't remember the last time we did one of these live streams and what I've done since, to be perfectly honest. It's been that long, but I think one of the last times we did was with Team Ballylog Classics, or as renamed to his channel now is Cooper S Traveller. So yeah, it's been a little while, but since then I have done Simply Italian as a show. There's a show down at Downton, which for those of you who know your minis will recognise that as a name that's very, very familiar to that scene. There's a car show down there every single year. It's something called the Cuckoo Fair, which well, it celebrates the month of May. Basically, it celebrates spring and everything. So yeah, there was a car show down there. I took the mini down there, so I have got a video on that. But I've tried a bit more of a cinematic view with that, I think. So the videos are taking a little bit longer to edit than they maybe usually would, because trying to find music that necessarily suits. I'm sure you know about this as well, Mark, given your videos have a very cinematic and obviously naturally quite an interviewee style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not always the easiest thing to find music that suits. So those videos are taking a little bit of time. Likewise with Still Pride Longbridge, actually. That video is not going live yet, but that's quite a long video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still from your video when you came to the motorist, Jake.
Yes, that's true. I've still not done the mini road trip, but I wanted to leave a little bit of time between that and the Fuel Power 1000 challenge video for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, because I didn't want to have two considerably longer videos together.
Yeah, I suppose both had a bit of a road trip thing as well, didn't they?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to have those as kind of a, well, the mini run one, I'm hoping to have kind of as a summer special, as it were, in a way. Not
Yeah.
quite like that, but we'll see what happens, and I'll put everything to do with that up at the same time.
Yeah. See, some classics have been to the Allegro 50th show. I actually did see one of the parts that was the Allegro video.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw photographs of the Allegro 50th. I didn't go myself because I don't have an Allegro, and also just because I think I was busy on that particular weekend as well. Sorry, throat's getting all mixed up already. It's so emotional doing this again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the photos I've seen of the event look very good, actually. I was really impressed with the amount of the.
Isn't it? Well, I've not been to too many. Obviously, I've had I was invited to the Citroen event recently, which was quite a nice day out. Lots of interesting French cars there.
2 seconds, might plug in this, see what happens. I'm actually struggling to hear you a little bit here, Mark, I'm afraid. So I'm going to try earphones, see if they make a difference.
Yeah, see, I'm not accustomed to not using a separate microphone. I need to project more like Moty does his live streams.
Because the thing is, viewers, we did actually do a little bit of a test. I think it was on Monday last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, about that. And I used the microphone and everything went good there.
And everything went fine with that. It was really good. The audio was clear, the visuals were clear, everything was just generally very good. But
everything was perfect apart from the hour it took us to actually establish the initial link.
Yeah, so apart from that, yeah, everything went well. But evidently today it doesn't want to play ball. Maybe it's because it's bank holiday and there's a lot of people at home.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Just refreshing, check my comments on the screen.
Unfortunately, we are British, so we will keep apologising profusely for this. But yeah, so my plan with that video, well, those videos, especially the mini stuff, is probably just to have it come out around June, maybe July as a bit of a quote unquote summer special, despite the fact there's a lot of snow featuring it because it's that time of the year. That was a good weekend, actually. That was a really good weekend. I can't actually wait until the next one, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I like doing road trips.
Plenty of now, isn't there? Into summer. While we're on French car theme, I've actually got a big French car event coming up in July, as it happens.
Oh yes, there is, isn't there?
Autos de France. Now, obviously, this is organised by MSV, but Jake and myself have been to an MSV event before, Festival Italia, which was at Ramsatch. The French car one is at Alton Park, but it looks to be along the same sort of theme. So there'll be obviously car clubs meeting there, various forms of motorsport on throughout the day to watch as well. And then the day usually capped off with a parade lap around the circuit. So quite looking forward to that one.
Also, that's one thing I have noticed myself with obviously owning a French car. I owned one, well, still do, I guess. Had one driving for many, many years, and there weren't really a huge amount of French car-based shows out there for, well, visiting, to be perfectly honest, and displaying at.
Yeah.
So to actually finally have something that really helps to stand out. I mean, there was one not that long ago, I think, called the French Car Show, which I believe was mainly Peugeots and things like that turned up.
Yeah.
See a show like that actually coming in because there's plenty of Italian car shows. Obviously, I know Beauty have got Simply French as well, which is quite local to me. It's not too far away for me to go to that, but
I haven't committed to one yet. I'm hoping to go because I've missed the last few years. Obviously, it's quite a drive for me. So a few of the issues I'm having previously at the moment, the car seems to be constantly for various parts replacing. So obviously, before I came into driving to the other end of the country, I know that everything's sort of resolved. But yeah, it would be nice to get back down.
Yeah, the problem is for me with Bewley and Simply French event was I don't think it happened in 2020 because of certain things. 2021, it did happen, but I was on the Isle of Wight for the mini adventure. Last year, it was available for me. I could have gone to it, but the car that I would have gone to it in decided it didn't want to have rear suspension anymore.
Yeah,
And this year, it also happens to be on the Isle of Wight adventure event week.
yeah.
This is obviously there is a big asterisk.
How's things coming along with the classic then, Jake?
They've not really changed a lot, to be perfectly honest. I've sent a few emails out to some companies out there in mainly France and I think one also in Belgium, because I found a few manufacturers out there that do renovate French car axles, but so far not really having a lot of luck because of trying to get it shipped to the UK. It's either ridiculously expensive or they just flat out refuse to do it because of certain Brexit trade stuff, which is a
Right.
load of fun. So I think that leaves my options as being either I try and go over myself and get one at some point, but then of course you got the cost of doing that, or I pay an extortionate fee for having it delivered, basically. So I think that's where my options lie at the minute.
Yeah.
So things aren't really progressing at the minute, I'm afraid, with that. As much as I know many people on here do like the Megane because it's obviously a little bit different, is a bit rare as well. There's really not many of them left, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure there's many or as many people as me out there who would probably care about such a car
Yeah, I don't
because they
range.
just don't have that stuff about them.
Back in the day, obviously, the days convertibles were the more desirable models, but in a strange quirk of fate, things were like such a specimen of the unexceptional. Models like the classic are actually quite desirable in a sense now.
Yeah. Oh, Simone's asked a question. Question for both of us. What type of security do you use for your cars, both fixed and mobile? Mark, would you like to answer first?
Well, with regard to the Megane Coupe, mine actually came with a factory fitted immobiliser. I know Jake, yours doesn't have the remote key fob, does it?
Mine doesn't have a remote key fob, no, but it does have an immobiliser.
It does have the immobiliser. Yeah, obviously mine has an over complex infrared remote control, which actually brings me to one of the issues I'm having at the moment. One of the keys failed. Obviously, they're no longer available from Renault. But yeah, basically the infrared remote central locking is part of the system required to deactivate the factory immobiliser. Then in addition to that, I actually have I think it's an auto lock. It's basically one that goes from the gear lever to the handbrake.
Yep.
And I've also got one of those big disc lock things as well. And naturally, I've gone for the yellow one, which works quite well with the car.
Yeah, I mean, with mine, I've got one of these steering locks that just fits on the underside of the wheel, and then if it hits the seat, obviously the steering wheel won't move. But to be perfectly honest, right now I'm not too worried about theft on mine because I really don't think anybody's going to try and steal the car with a buggered rear axle. To be perfectly honest, um, as
Yeah.
as for the other two, which are not at all French, the Fiat also has an immobilizer, which, funny enough, the light on that keeps flashing at me whilst I'm driving, so it tells me my battery in the remote fob is getting a bit low to do
Yeah.
with that. And as for the Mini, it just has a simple steering lock, and if I'm going out and about to somewhere where I know it's either going to stay outside overnight or not be in one place for a very, very short time, because I'm that security conscious over it, because it's a little baby car, it's my show car, it's everything to me. I do have a wheel clamp for it, which does help. I know obviously you can make security basically go as far as the moon as you want to go with it. You can do whatever you want to do with it, but if somebody is determined enough, they will take it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have a garage at least. Obviously, I don't. I just have a driveway in front of the house. So I suppose the other saving grace I've got is that not only is mine bright yellow, so it does kind of stand out a bit. I think if anyone did fire it up, everyone would probably hear it with the exhausts on it as well.
Yeah, because I mean that's probably one of the biggest risks that you and I both have got. I mean, obviously, cat converters are something that are stolen quite frequently, as it turns out. So if the cars are sat for a while, maybe that's something. But then again, I don't know quite what material Renault use in their cats because there are certain brands out there that have more valuable cats to thieves than others, such as the Honda Jazz. That is a really popular one, apparently.
Yeah, well, it's the palladium. I think it is. It's in the catalytic converters. Obviously,
Something like that, yeah.
hybrid vehicles and vans are quite prone to cat theft. But obviously, with vans, it's easy because you've got the ground clearance. You can simply slide underneath and, probably bolt because or something, and you're away. Obviously, with a hybrid, because the nature of how the vehicle works, in theory, the catalytic converter is probably going to be in better condition than what it is from an older car.
Yeah. Let's just read back the comments. Simone has a kill switch on the Cortina. Good idea. I've seen actually a few people who've fitted buttons to their car, or flick switches that enables them to obviously mobile. A really good idea. Obviously, some cars it doesn't work on, like the Mini, because it's not an electrical system on that. It's something else entirely, which I'll go into more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some more modern cars that kind of does work.
Yeah,
I don't know what a garage defender is, so please enlighten me. I don't actually know what that is. But yeah, it seems to be. I agree there. It seems to be most Japanese cars with a high value cat that seem to be stolen. So obviously, the Japanese are doing something that maybe the European manufacturers are not doing.
Yeah. Actually, one of the listening I mentioned kill switch. I know when I had the Fiat 500, there was a statement against our baths being stolen. Apparently, they were using something put into the OBD2 column. Now, I think you can actually buy aftermarket devices that sort of lock that off. I actually fabricated something at home and bolted it in place. It wouldn't have made it impregnable, but it would have certainly slowed down anyone who was expected to be straight in, plug a device in, and drive away. So there's always little things like that that you can do as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, with the Fiat, I haven't had any problems with that at all for security or anything because it's not quite as maybe desirable as a 500 or Abarth 500. They certainly seem to be the ones that get nabbed, if any, shall we say. I mean, the Panda 100 HP is one of these cars that's slowly going up in value. If it seems to have leveled out at the minute, it's not really losing anything or gaining anything.
Yeah,
But
I know I was
obviously,
I've been in the 500 owners club. I used to regularly see posts about stolen, particularly in the West Midlands. But we did have
yes,
some Fiats as well that came stolen. So,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, hello, Mendit Man. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, so obviously we decided to go for a bit of a French direction with this particular stream, just to, I guess, vary it up a bit, because usually we just discuss anything and everything. So yeah, we thought we'd try something a little bit different, a bit more of a themed live stream, as it were. So yeah, Mark, how did you actually end up with your Megane Coupe? And I know, obviously, recently from your videos, you have bought yourself a newer Megane as well.
yeah, well, we've actually now got 3 Renaults on the driveway since, but yeah, 2 of them are Megans. So back in early 1996, when the Megane were launched in the UK, we'd either not had cars or we'd had cheap cars. We had a string of Renault 5s. Always liked the brand, but by that point the Clio was out and the Renault 5 was quite a dated design. And I remember going with my parents to see a Megane Coupe at launch and just immediately fell in love with it. Now, my dad did actually buy one of the very first cars registered in the UK with the same 1.6 engine as mine, but in a complete basic model. So it didn't have alloy wheels, had manual windows, no sunroof, no spoiler or anything like that on it. but the car just turned heads everywhere it went. As a teenager, it made quite a lasting impression on me. Obviously, by the time I was old enough to be able to own one, they'd moved on to the Mark II, which I actually had one of those as my fourth car. But it wasn't the same. It was a very different car to the original model. And basically, a quarter of a century later, I dropped on my own.
Yeah. Because after you had the 5, you had the Clio, wasn't it, or something like that?
That's right. Well, again, as I say, when I was younger, we didn't necessarily have expensive cars, if a car at all. My dad always wanted a Mark 1 Clio, and sadly, couldn't ever quite stretch for one. And then the Mark 2 was released. G did actually, we had one of the early Mark 2s on the NES. I actually had a Mark 2 pre-facelift as my second car when I was 18. That was on the W plate, Clio Ground. I had that car for about a year, actually, until one day I was on my way to work and I saw a car transport just by quirk of fate parked at the end of my street with the new facelift Mark II Clios. And they had a Dynamique with all the alloy wheels and basically all the bits that an 19-year-old would want in a car. And back in some amount of older viewers will probably remember in the early 2000s, a lot of manufacturers on small cars did these free insurance deals where you bought a car and got a year's free insurance with it. So the free insurance I got pretty much erased the negative equity I had in the first Clio. So I ended up getting a new car without it really costing me any more in real terms. So, but yeah, obviously I had a few of them before I sort of moved up through Megans and Lagunas.
Yeah, so you gradually went from the smaller car up to the, I guess, bigger car, I guess maybe the best way of saying it.
Yeah, well, I went from 5 to a couple of Clios. In fact, my second Clio I had, the post-facelift model, I got literally a few, maybe a month before we changed from the old style registration plates to the current style. So I actually had a facelift Clio Y registration, and I haven't seen them for a very, very long time. The vast majority were 52 plate onwards. But yeah, I went through a few Clios. I had a 3-door Megane on 52 plate, which had a comfort pack, so it had all the toys, of which every single one of them was broken. So that spent a lot of time going in for warranty work. And I had that a few years, and then I went for a Luna 2 Privilege, which is probably one of the nicest cars I've ever owned.
As you can see there, viewers, Mark is very much a man of Renault, Renault loving, shall we say. Yeah, I mean, speaking from my own experiences, I really don't have a lot of, I guess, experiences with the Mark II Clio. I mean, one of my friends in college used to have one as a first car, but he unfortunately sold that on for a Golf, and then he's sold that on even further to get a new Megane. I think it's the 5-door hatchback he's got. But it's got the 1.5 DCI with a 6-speed gearbox, which ironically is the same engine as we got in the. Obviously, being a Renault car, it's got a bit more power, and obviously having that 6th gear, it's a bit 5.
Yeah, what generation Clio was that, Jake? With the DCI, was that a Clio 3 or Clio 2? The one your friend had, he said a DCI.
So the engine we got in the Sandero, it's obviously body-wise, it's very much a Mark III Clio, but the engine and gearbox and that come from the Mark IV, so it's slightly more updated. Whereas the engine the Clio my friend had was a 1.2, and obviously his car is Megane. This is now that's the 1.5, so that probably previous Euro regulation. I'm not quite sure. I think the car is a 62 reg.
Yeah, because I remember the Mark II facelift Clios were the first to get the DCI engines, and initially there was a 65 and an 80 horsepower version, and then later a very horsepower model. But at the time, I think they all used 5-speed gearbox. So I don't think
Mhm.
Clio got the 6-speed box until sort of the third generation cars.
Yeah, yeah, because the Sandero we got is a 5-speed gearbox. So it's the same.
Yeah,
Of course, I've not actually had a look around the latest Clio, but I have had a look around the latest Sandero Stepway.
yeah. I
Um,
new Clio actually. Well, the current gen Mark 4 Clios. No, Mark 5. Sorry. Um, they're quite a nice looking car.
mhm.
I actually test drove a Mark 4 many years ago, and wasn't overly impressed. But despite the cars looking similar, I think the Mark 5 is a really big improvement.
Yeah, because the thing is, looking now, obviously Renault, like a lot of other brands, are looking forwards to electric cars, aren't they?
Yeah,
And they seem to be gradually moving away from smaller hatchbacks and estates and saloons and such, and more in the market for SUVs, because that's just generally where the market is going at the minute, which personally I think is quite sad because you lose a lot of the individualism of the smaller car.
yeah, I agree.
About cars that were currently on sale that were either about to go off sale or had only very, very recently gone off sale. And of course, Volkswagen Golf apparently next year is going, as with the Ford
Yeah,
Focus.
I must be having a real bugbear. Yeah,
It's quite scary how many of these cars that I guess are so familiar are all of a sudden disappearing in favour of SUVs and things.
yeah. Well, the Fiesta obviously was still selling quite well, but the reality of it is, I think that with limitations on various resources at the moment, Ford are able to sell you a more expensive car with the incorrect name on it, that they call Puma, even though it's not one, and charge you probably a premium over the purchase price of the Fiesta.
Yeah, Golf is being killed off. That's what I've heard, unfortunately. But then again, it wouldn't generally surprise me that much because obviously Ford and Volkswagen got a partnership at the minute, especially with moving forward into electric technology. So if Ford is killing off the Focus, what's the point in Volkswagen developing a new Golf that they can't, I guess, sell or develop in partnership with Ford and save those costs? But that's what I've heard. There may just be a little bit of smoke and rumors, I guess, but there's usually, when it comes to these things, there's no sort of smoke without fire, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can't imagine everyone pushing out to buy the ID3 though.
No.
They're the electric equivalent, isn't it, of the Golf?
Yeah. Sorry, just reading the comments. Jaguars are also going all electric. Yep, that's true enough. They are. And that's
Jaguar, speculation is that Jaguar may actually try and go further up market, sort of into the realms of where such as Aston Martin and Bentley currently sit.
ooh.
I don't know how that will go down.
No, I don't know either, because of course Jaguar, whilst not necessarily deemed to be in the realms of Bentley or Rolls Royce, it's still fairly luxurious as it is, shall we say.
Yeah,
But it's obviously not quite got the same price tag as Bentley or Roller.
they're struggling to compete against the German brands in that same sector. Where I suppose if you can move the brand forward market, you charge you more premium, and the vehicle doesn't necessarily cost you a lot more to develop and produce. It's just whether that brand carries enough cachet to elevate it to the same price point as a Bentley.
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, obviously, the world of the combustion engine is changing quite significantly. We're seeing what can only be described as a bit of a war on diesels amongst cities and towns and all this, which personally, I'm not convinced that diesel is the worst thing ever. I know, I'm sorry, Joseph, who's probably going to watch this back at some point if he isn't watching it already. That's probably going to upset him immensely. Um, but yeah, I don't think diesel is necessarily the worst thing in the world. I mean, when you think about it, cars these days are taxed based on their emissions rather than just taxed for the sake of driving on a road, aren't they? Really?
Yeah,
So if diesel is so bad, why is our Sandero £0 in tax and other older ones are only about £20 or £30?
Because that's the kind of an era where the government was incentivising us all to drive diesels, basically.
I know, but in 2016 we bought our Sandero. They weren't incentivizing diesels. They were saying actually move away from it because of obviously the
Yeah,
highlighted aspects, say, of Dieselgate from Volkswagen and all that other stuff.
yeah. I think you got into
Honestly,
it before the.
yeah. Let's put it this way: when it comes to engines and everything else like that, you could be here forever discussing everything,
Oh no,
basically.
see, as you mentioned, hydrogen. Now, obviously, I think there are a couple of manufacturers with hydrogen vehicles. In fact, I believe James May actually has a hydrogen powered car. There aren't many hydrogen fueling stations. I think that's part of the
Not
issue.
yet.
Now, we actually, where I work, we did actually have a hydrogen powered truck on demo.
Really?
Actually, a one-off prototype, so worth quite a lot of money. And we did actually trial that vehicle just doing a set run each day. I didn't get to drive it myself, but to what I understand, it was essentially an electric powered vehicle with a motor and a battery, just like any other EV. But then it had hydrogen tanks fastened on there as well. And the hydrogen was basically being used to replenish the power in the batteries. Now, one of the issues with that vehicle is when it was getting to its destination, it looked like the DeLorean coming out the back of the trailer in Back to the Future because of steam and all sorts coming off it. Then on the way back to base, it was going diverting to an area where it could be refueled. And by all accounts, a team of men in a lot of protective clothing to come out and refuel the vehicle. And apparently, it took about 3/4 of an hour because they could put the hydrogen in very, very quickly up to a certain point. A bit like how an electric car will charge quickly, and then when it gets to the top so many percent, it'll slow down the charging. And I think the same issue was present with the hydrogen vehicle as well.
Yeah, because am I right in thinking the way that hydrogen vehicles work, and please forgive me because I'm not an expert on this particular topic, but a hydrogen vehicle, from what I understand from having watched previous Top Gears and things like that, it is essentially a generator with an electric motor and everything else like that. When you
I
take
think
it down to its core,
pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah, much.
because it's not direct drive from the hydrogen motor to the wheels. It's
No,
hydrogen motor charges battery, battery drives wheels, and so on and so forth.
yeah, pretty much.
Which, in a way, in a dystopian kind of future, I could kind of see small electric cars being used to go around towns and cities and such, and probably hydrogen-based vehicles will do mainly the work of the diesel vehicle now. It'll do longer journeys, it'll be more efficient, obviously, to do so because you won't have to keep stopping and charging. Obviously, when you have stuff like lorries and trucks and vans and things like that that go up and down motorways all day long, you know,
Yeah, I
having
mean,
that option to just refill quickly.
I drive goods vehicles for a living, and it's going to be difficult. I mean, I think electric can work in certain situations. I think with the haulage industry, it's so diverse in its requirements. So there'll be some where a vehicle may have a set route. It may be going to deliver, maybe going to a depot, for example, where the vehicle's going to be sat for a period of time. And that could potentially work. You drive to that point, put the vehicle in while it's being unloaded, and then it's ready for the return journey. But there'll be many issues such as doing curbside deliveries in city centres where you just can't, you sometimes just struggle to even get outside the delivery point. You're certainly not going to be able to then put your extension cord across the middle of the footpath and charge a truck while you're loading. It's just not feasible.
Yeah. I have seen that somebody in the comments flying Viti Lotti. Sorry about that. I can't pronounce things at all today, evidently. Yeah, basically synthetic fuel. That's quite an interesting thing that's coming in now, especially obviously considering they want to stop digging up dead dinosaur goop and turning it into fiery potions that work magic in your car. Yeah, synthetic fuel, basically based on plants and things like that, as far as I know. But as Simone's mentioned, Porsche are involved with that. There's quite a few other companies that are now starting to get involved with that. And really, that could be the savior for the combustion engine, not only on a, I guess, scrappage view or scrappage view. Yeah, because of course, if all these governments and things like that decide, no, we're not having any combustion cars come into a city or town or whatever at all, that could make change. Like that could change things.
Yeah. Yeah, Dion's just mentioned sound quality. It's, I think it's probably not so bad if it looks to the phone that this has been done. I literally shouted it.
Yeah.
Just
out of interest, Mark, because you're on phone, are you using the Wi-Fi at the minute or the 3G, 4G?
Yeah, using Wi-Fi.
It might be worth trying 3 or 4G because sometimes that's a little bit better somehow.
Yeah, as long as I don't have very much mobile data, so hence why it's Wi-Fi. So, well, it's probably not so bad if I'm close. So, obviously, when I turn to read the comments, I'm probably not projecting at the phone. So, well, yes, I do have a headset. The problem is I've got the phone plugged in for power while I'm doing this because otherwise I consume a lot of phone battery. Because phones don't have separate audio jacks anymore. I can't plug in a headset and a power cord at the same time.
Well, how much? I was going to say, how much battery does your phone currently have, and we can try and work something out with that. If you did want to go off and get your headset,
I think it's about 50% at the moment, so it's not too bad. Can everyone hear me okay now? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. See how we got on at that then. I think it's just if I'm further away. An issue.
Otherwise, it'll just be like, "Hello, I'm Mark." Yeah, that can be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why we had issue before with this.
No, as I said earlier on, Monday when we did a quick test run with this, because it's been a little while since I last did one of these streams, and also YouTube has actually updated things slightly, but yeah, it was all fine on Monday. Evidently today it just doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
But
can you hear me now, Jake?
Yes, I can. And that was very, very clear.
Oh, good. Microphones are working again now.
Oh, you got a twin mic set up there.
Yeah. Well, if it's not, it comes out in mono. For some strange reason.
I will say, whilst it's not necessarily perfect, that is better.
Oh, good. So better then.
What do we think, viewers? Let us know. Slightly better with when you're nearer the screen.
Right.
Well, we'll try and work with what we can, as I say, with this, because unfortunately technology evidently isn't on our side today.
No.
This could be a spectator sport, couldn't it? How long does it take to figure out technology for anybody?
Not doing a live stream on technology, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not necessarily giving off the best advert for it, is it?
No.
Still, that is genuinely, on my end, it is a lot better.
Yeah. How about now? Is that coming through for you?
Yeah, it's better. I think that's acceptable for me, at least. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but
well, press on then. Still here.
Yeah. Yeah. What I will say about hydrogen, everything else like that, what I do think is quite interesting is that you have a lot of the Japanese manufacturers now looking to hydrogen. Like Honda have had a bit of a head start on it because they have been developing that sort of a system for years and years now, I think.
Yeah.
But what I think is quite interesting is that Toyota, of course, one of the brands that are most well known for hybrid vehicles, electric, petrol, and everything else like that, and even just fully electric at this point, they are now looking to hydrogen, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah. I think obviously as we know, Toyota have been doing the hydrogen. Renault are obviously part of the Renault Nissan alliance. So
It is,
Renault,
and there's also Mitsubishi part of that now as well.
yeah. So obviously they got quite a head start, didn't they, in the EV side of things? But when you look on the website, the majority of the vehicles pushing now are either full EV or hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
like it or not, it's here to stay, isn't it? I just hope that these modern EVs as daily vehicles will still mean that we can use the cars that we really want as our sort of weekend pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, as Luke has actually said earlier up in the chat, if I just go back and remind myself, the amount of money that's been put into electric cars, they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And to be honest, I don't think they should, because the end product of them, for the majority now, they're quite good. Things like the MG4,
Yeah,
they are genuinely, for what you're looking for, they are very good value for money. But I'm
yeah,
not entirely convinced on the production methods yet of all these electric cars. And obviously, petrol and diesel, they got their own question marks about how they're made, I'm sure. But
yeah.
I guess it's because we're moving into a period of uncertainty, a period of the unknown and massive change.
Well, I've not edited the video yet, but I was at a show recently, which was showcasing some EVs. It was actually one of the Chinese brands that's going to be new to the UK, BYD, and that's going to be sort of priced, I think, competitively with the MG models. But this is just one of a whole raft of EVs from China, and I think some of them are really going to make the European manufacturers sit and take notice.
That's the thing, actually.
Really impressive, and they will hopefully be a lot more competitive with price as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The Chinese seem to be one of, if not the best at the minute for electric vehicles. They're really sort of charging ahead with it.
Yeah,
It's quite scary how quickly they're developing, to be perfectly honest.
well, BYD in particular, I mean, they were actually a battery manufacturer first and foremost, and the old Nokia phones that used to last for about a week when you charged them up, no matter how much you played Snake on your phone. Apparently, it was BYD that made a lot of those batteries, so they've got quite a history.
Yeah.
In the field.
Yeah, because of course you got the likes of, I think BMW get cars made in China now, electric cars. Tesla certainly do.
Yeah.
Volkswagen, I think, do as well. I think there's a few other American brands that are starting to move into that sort of market. They get their cars built in China or get a lot of parts supplied from China.
Yeah.
It's quite a shift, really, when you think about it. Obviously, the Chinese have been making battery technology such as batteries for phones and laptops and such for years and years and years, and probably to that kind of an industry, making a car battery is not a huge jump.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously here in Europe, we don't make so much of that sort of thing.
Yeah. Mendit Man makes a valid point. If everyone in the UK had an electric car, there's no way we could charge them all. Yeah, I agree.
No, I agree with that.
I've got a friend who works in quite high up in electricity generation, and the capacity just isn't there if everyone wants to plug in at the same time. I think not that, but obviously I travel around a lot for work, and I see a lot of these new charging points that are coming online, and it seems they can build them a lot faster than they can connect them up to the grid. So you get a lot of these new sites built that are currently inoperable. You hear so many stories of people going on longer journeys. I think if you can charge at home, like for me, if I were charging at home going to work, and that's all I did, I'd never charge anywhere else. But on longer journeys, you go in a service area. I've heard of people arriving at a service station, and there's a car on the charger and another one behind it waiting to go on. And then they go to the next service area, and that charger's broken. So they go to the next one, and then there's a queue again. I think the infrastructure's definitely got to improve, both in terms of available chargers.
Sorry, I've just read the comments. No, but that's the point that Simone makes. Not everybody is lucky enough to be able to charge an electric car on their street or potentially even driveways. You know, not everybody has that facility.
Yeah. They could always charge people.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I've just read that.
actually, we're actually onto something here because I think it was it Vista, probably a decade or more ago, actually had like a sports saloon that had a 2 litre petrol engine, but it wasn't providing traction. It was basically a generator for electric motors, and the certain performance was probably equivalent of something like a 4 litre petrol.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think this could really work well in terms of going back to bus vehicles. Rather than having a 12 or 13 litre diesel engine, what if we had an internal combustion engine of around half the size, by that principle, that is just a generator? I mean, you look at the old diesel electric locos, and effectively that's what they were. It was just a great big internal combustion engine bolted to a chassis that was generating electricity for traction motors.
Yeah, that's actually quite a good idea I've just had in my head actually with this. We could potentially see about having a not a race so much, but a challenge between maybe a Mark One Megane versus the latest E-Tech. See what happens with a long journey. How would that work?
Well, I think the EV definitely out accelerate the full Mark 1.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But yeah, it'd be
But
a
would
case from the hair, wouldn't it? Because one would have to stop and charge up for a long time, where the other one it'd be a 5 minute fuel stop.
because that's one of the things that I guess, found out from asking people who have got them. Because of course I don't have a fully electric car myself. I've got an electric Sinclair, but I don't have any electric car.
The Sinclair, the car of the future.
Yeah.
We,
See,
we,
so Clive was right all along.
oh, he definitely was. You see, we're solving all these problems on here. This is what you tune in for. I mean, maybe next week we can work on world peace.
Yeah. There's an idea. Next week we have the C5 versus a Citroen Ami.
I think before we go too far down the rabbit hole, Jake, I think we need to come back to some French vehicles because
Yes, we've gone rather off topic. I think maybe what we'll have to do is I'll have to get you back on again for another live stream in the future,
yeah,
and we'll discuss electric vehicles and combustion and everything in more detail then.
yeah, but yeah, something I did want to discuss tonight. 25 years ago, Bob Mortimer sped off to a church to stop Nicole marrying Vic Reeves. Jake, you've probably no idea what I'm talking about, but anyone of my generation will remember tuning in to a TV advert. Now, nobody did car adverts in the 90s quite like the French, and it was almost like a movie itself. But yeah, basically, Nicole, who was well known from the adverts for the first generation Clio, when they launched the Mark II, they did a TV ad where she was due to get married, and Bob raced to the church in his Clio and broke up the wedding. And he did it in a car identical to this one here, pre-facelift Mark II Clio. This one presumably would have been now. It's seen look with its fog lamps and its alloy wheels and everything on there. And it was the same colour as the one on this original brochure as well, which, yeah, I quite like that. So it's hard to believe, isn't it? 25 years of Mark II Clio. How did that happen?
Yeah, they sort of that's gone a bit unnoticed, really. When you think you've got, I think it's about 30 years of the Renault Twingo this year.
Yeah, 30 years of Twingo this year. I think last year was 30 years of the Citroën.
Yep.
Which is a car I reviewed actually last year, and yeah, that's an impressive machine.
Yeah, it's not that long until 30 years of the Renault Megane. That's quite scary as well.
It is, yeah.
I'll hopefully have mine back and running for those celebrations.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, as I say, well, it was December 95, the official launch, but obviously in the UK we were a few months behind, so it was early. It was sort of around April, May 96 when the first cars came out. But yeah, how time really has flown.
I know. And going back to the Clio, it's surprising that actually there doesn't seem to be that much to celebrate it at the minute. there's a lot of celebration around the Twingo and but
Yeah.
not so much for the Clio, which I find surprising considering it's been a really good seller for Renault over the years,
Well, I think
especially with the Clio 2 platform. That's been really very quite popular when you look at it.
well, the Clio 2 obviously will always, in some sense, be in the shadow of the original car, which is often the case when the name gets passed down the generation. The models everyone will remember, of course, are the later phase 2, later phase 1, where we got cars like this. Renault Sport 172. That actually came quite late in the Mark II range. And then obviously after that we got the post facelift cars. Now, you don't see many big facelift cars on the road now. You do see
No.
quite a lot of post facelift though.
Yeah, you do. That's the thing. The Clio 2 in either face used to be around everywhere, but nowadays they're not that common anymore.
No,
Which
no.
is like, it's one of those things. It's a bit like the, I guess, Mark 3, 4 Fiesta. Once was everywhere. All of a sudden, oh, that's disappeared. Where did that go?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's a bit like the Scenics as well. Again, where have they all gone?
yeah, yeah, indeed, yeah.
You know, that used to be a seriously popular car at one point, and now it's
You know, I remember not that many years ago having a bit of a rant about MPVs. They're very ingenious, very clever in design. But everywhere you went, everyone was buying MPVs on every conceivable size platform. And I was always like, well, they're not going to drive like a normal car. It's taller, you know. Why not just buy a skate car? And now that everything's an SUV, I find myself actually longing for the days whenever we're making MPVs, because MPVs were so much more innovative than any SUV that we have now.
yeah, that's it, isn't it? There's a lot of cars that are just disappearing as an estate, saloon, or hatchback, and they are just becoming SUVs now.
Yeah,
Which, in a way, I think's boring.
it is. It's absolutely shocking. What's even more heartbreaking is that we've actually had one on sleep. But I suppose it was inevitable then. At some point we ended up
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. When I look back at the Clio 2, you think about how many other cars use the platform. You got Dachas that use them, like the original Sandero used the Mark II Clio platform.
yeah.
I think the Logan, did that use it when the first gen Logan came in?
Everything is obviously due to cost. Everything is platform shared. You know, even all these digital instruments in cars now, it's not possible
Yeah,
because it's so much cheaper to just put a touchscreen in any vehicle rather than everything being bespoke. I mean, going back to these early Mark II Clios, again,
yeah,
just bring your attention to this photo at the bottom here. That instrument cluster was bespoke to the early Clio 2. Megane, one of the three facelift cars, had a bespoke cluster, Laguna, Safran. They all had bespoke instruments. But a few years down the line, everything in the range sort of got these generic instruments in the car. And I think that's just a sign of the way things are going. Like I say, you then went on to various manufacturers collaborating and sharing platforms. I remember Ford and VW with the Chiron and the Galaxy, Fiat with the USA, which was also a Citroen, MPV, and a Peugeot. It's just the world we're living now, unfortunately, because it costs so much to develop a car. I think the days of us having something bespoke on the
yeah,
mainstream vehicle are long gone.
yeah. So I'll just go back to the comments. Yes, I have driven a new Citroen Ami. Very briefly, I will add. But hopefully I should be reviewing that car in the not too distant future. So that should be quite exciting.
Yeah, I would quite like to buy one of those myself, actually. Actually, the small one I would like to go is the Microlino. Microlino. Looks a
Yeah,
bit like a Metal car. But I think they're going to be quite more expensive than the Abbey. Where the Abbey's really, I think,
yeah.
part of the market with prices, it's quite a bit cheaper than.
I mean, the thing is for me this year, obviously I've had a lot of time with the Italian cars and the minis and such, but the channel here did actually begin with my Megane Classics. That's on the drive needing some work doing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind taking it not so much back to its roots with that, because at the minute I can't do anything until things work in my favour, shall we say.
Yeah.
But I would maybe like to try and get a bit more of the French variety, if you know what I mean, because I think the French did genuinely make some really good cars. In fact, actually, I went to the Bewley Spring Auto Jumble and they did have a little French micro car of some sort, about the same sort of size as the Peel P50. It's a tiny bit bigger.
Oh, right.
And that was on sale there for about £2,500, and somebody actually bought it. It wasn't me, before anybody thinks that. Although, had I have gone over there earlier on when it didn't have a sign on it that said sold, and I had £2,500 just to spend on a little tiny micro car, I might well have been tempted.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Just because uniqueness, why not?
I must admit, I quite like going to Twizy.
Twizzy, yeah.
Twizy
I quite
Electric.
like I quite like them, but I think in winter I would not like it.
No, doors were an option lights were, weren't they? In the Twizy.
No.
And the doors that you did get weren't particularly heavy duty, were they?
No, I mean, I wouldn't mind having a Twizy just to go in and out of town every now and then, but that's a bit of an extravagance, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was faster than the Abbey. I think they could do about 50 miles per hour.
Mm.
The Twizy. In fact, I remember one motoring journalist, I think he actually had it sideways at 50 miles per hour. Probably quite fun.
Yeah. So I know for both of us, just moving away from Renaults for a little bit, so I think we discussed them quite at length here.
Mm.
What did you think of the Peugeot 205? Because I know we've both driven the same car.
I absolutely loved it, and it baffles me as to whatever reason on my channel that video doesn't get very many views at all. Well, the car done far, far better. And all I can put it down to is maybe because it's not a GTI, people are not looking for it. I think something, maybe not so much for you, Jake, but obviously I remember the 205s as a child, and I was always firmly into the Renault 5s and had one as the first car. But the 205, even though in its sort of latter years of being on sale, the Renault 5 outsold it, it pained me to say, but I think the Peugeot probably was the benchmark car. I really do.
Yeah, well, just before you can see, sorry. Thank you for joining us, Simone. Hope you have a nice dinner. Sorry, I thought I'd just interrupt to say goodbye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the 205 was the benchmark. And I know when Renault was developing the Clio Williams, I think the 205 GTI was actually the benchmark that they were sort of working against.
Yeah. Because the thing is, obviously, I grew up a little bit after the 205. For me, the iconic French car at the time was probably the Citroën Saxo,
Yeah,
especially things like the VTS and the VTR.
I've been offered a VTR actually for review, so I'm hoping to do that soon.
Oh, have you?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I think the VTR is probably one of the most important cars of the 1990s, the Saxo VTR. Well, the Saxo in general, because obviously I passed my test in the late 1990s, being a little bit older than you, Jake. And things like the Vauxhall Nova, probably one of the most popular cars. But it was things like, say, Novas, Mark II Fiestas. They were the sort of affordable first cars. But when you were that all-important second car, it was things like the Corsa B and the Citroën Saxo that was the real aspirational cars. The VTS was obviously the top model, but it was probably more expensive to buy in 16 value. It was probably a lot more expensive to insure as well. Whereas the VTR seemed to be that sweet spot. And everyone was looking at those. You know, there were a host of special edition models with smaller engines. So I think there was it Fiorano or something? There was one that looked a bit like a VTR, but with a smaller engine and steel wheels. So that they was quite a car that probably attracted.
Oh, was that the Furio?
Maybe the Furio, yeah. And there was some sort of 1100cc models as well with public sunroofs and things like that. So Citroen really did sort of know where to hit that young market.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think that's
the GTR was the car that everybody wanted to be in at the time.
in some ways. I kind of see Citroen have lost their way on that front. They were really good at marketing a car for the younger generation,
Yeah,
but they don't seem to have that car anymore. I mean, obviously, I know the Saxo's replacement was the C2, and that,
yes.
of course, had its own VTS and VTR models. And to be perfectly honest, I would like to have a go in one at some point just to see what it is like.
I don't think I mean, without checking the sales figures out, I couldn't really say for sure, but I always got the feeling that the C2 was never quite as successful as what the
No,
Saxo.
this you could probably tell that just by how many were actually on the roads, at least in the UK. I don't know quite what it's like in France or any other European country,
Yeah,
but
the
in the
Saxo.
UK they were really not popular.
No, I mean the strange thing is the Saxo actually came quite late, really, for what it was, because it was actually, I believe, based around the Peugeot 106. Now, the
Hmm,
Peugeot 106 came to market around the same time as the Mark 1 Clio in the early 1990s. So it was
that's
all
true.
based on an older car. And I am told by someone I think someone in the Citroen Club mentioned, if you scratch back far enough, I think there's actually probably some Citroen AX under there as well.
Hmm. The X was really quite a popular little car as well. Did you know, and I don't know what I've told anybody this before, but did you know I almost bought a Saxo VTS Phase 1 back in about 2015?
Oh, right.
Because one of my nan's neighbours actually had one. It was a bit of a project,
Yeah,
and they were selling it, I think, for about £800 back then.
yeah,
Which, when you think now, that would be an absolute bargain, even if it did need a bit of work doing to it.
yeah. I would
Whereas,
imagine Saxo was going to be like with any other small car, in the
hmm,
sense that you'll probably be able to pick up a lower spec car relatively cheaply. Um, whereas things like the BTS, because there was such an aspirational car, they're going to command probably 3 times the value. And it's either going to be people that had one when they was younger, or
yeah,
people who wanted one when they was younger and didn't have the opportunity.
hmm. And that was one of the things. Like looking at my family, they seem to like their French cars, to say the least. I
Yeah,
mean, my dad previously had a Renault 5, and obviously that sort of led him later on in life to getting the Megane when we obviously got our saloon,
yeah,
which I know is only two cars. It's not many, but because of that, we then bought the Sandero, which I know, whilst not officially French, it is very much a Renault Clio.
yeah, yeah.
But my
I think,
family on the other side of things, they
yeah,
like Citroens.
well, the French were good at basically giving you a lot for your money. So,
Hmm.
even going back to the Renault 5, things like having a passenger side door mirror, there were other manufacturers that didn't give you that across the range.
No, so do you want a passenger door mirror? Well, you're not having one.
Yeah, it's hard to think now, isn't it? But that's really what I think it came down to.
Hmm.
But obviously, in the 1980s, I think there was a bit of a stigma that, um, people felt that Fords and Vauxhalls, that people were a lot more loyal back then to the sort of homegrown brands. They didn't want. Um,
Yeah, but that's the
yeah,
thing. We don't really have a homegrown, fully funded by British or Britain brand anymore, do we? Really?
not really, no.
We've got obviously a few smaller companies such as Ariel and Morgan, which, as far as I know, are still funded by British funds. But when you think of MG these days, very much Chinese. Obviously, I
Yeah,
know the MG3 and the MG6 initially developed at Longbridge, designed at Longbridge, engines and everything all done at Longbridge, but invested with Chinese money.
yeah,
But now the new MGs, they're all built in China, designed in China, you name it.
yeah, yeah,
I'm only using that as an example more than anything else.
yeah. The See, you mentioned obviously family had a Renault 5. Did you say they had a Citroen as well, Jake? Or have you had other French cars?
Yeah, my family seem to like Citroen quite a lot. I mean, on my aunt's side of the family, she and my uncle had a Citroen AX, which I've just noticed in the comments. AX was great on fuel. And yes, I can agree with that. They really were really good little cars. In fact, when we did our
Yeah.
1,000-mile challenge, we generally considered an AX at one point because we found one. It was just a bit further away than the Arosa.
Does anyone remember the AX TV advert with Cupid? Obviously, I don't expect you will, Jake. It's probably way before.
I don't remember the advert, but I remember the car.
Yeah, yeah, there was a TV advert, and they had Cupid flying around trying to shoot his arrow. So what I recall, I don't think he could hit the very nimble, agile AXGT.
Okay, I might have
Yeah,
to give that a little bit of a watch at some point.
I'm sure it's probably somewhere on YouTube. But
It probably
yeah,
will. Everything's on YouTube.
yeah. I mean, my auntie at one point had a two-seat bin, which I remember my dad ridiculed her mercilessly about. The only sort of Citroen that no, another auntie had an AX, no, a B, a ZX. He had a ZX diesel, and that thing used to probably do about 50 mile round trip for my uncle for work every day. And out of all the cars they owned, I think that was probably one of the most reliable cars they ever had.
Okay.
You reviewed a ZX, didn't you, Jay?
Yes, I did do a ZX, and part of the reason why I wanted to review one was because I went to a local car meet to me called the Pride and Joy car meet, which is often held at the Army Flying Museum. And for those of you who are here with obviously Mark for this particular live stream, we did an event at the Army Flying Museum last year, which was basically celebrating the fact that the channel had hit 2,000 subscribers at that point. Anyway, event held event held up there. That was really good. Pride and Joy meet, and somebody actually came along in a ZX. And the thing is, one thing I want to try and promote a little bit more on the channel is younger drivers taking an interest in maybe the older cars that are maybe not so heralded, shall we say?
Yeah.
Because, of course, you can look at stuff like the Renault 5 and somebody will go, oh, that's great, I love the Renault 5, and loads of people suddenly drive them as a club, maybe. Same with the Minis, same with stuff like the Citroen 2CVs and VW Beetles, but
I
stuff
don't
like
know
the
about
Z...
you, Jake. Obviously, when you drove the 205, it was probably your first experience of a 1980s hatchback. Obviously, I started with the Renault 5. But when I drove David's 205, and as you know, that is as probably as near as you're going to get to a brand new 1980s design car, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's as close as you're going to get now in 20. Well, when I filmed it, it was
Yeah.
2021, but for you, 2022, was it?
Something like that. But when
Yeah.
you drive a little car like that, I mean, that, like I say, last year I drove a couple of Mercedes and, like I say, an executive model from the Renault range. But there was something about that little Peugeot. I felt probably 20 years younger when I got behind the wheel of that car. And even
Or
though
suddenly wanted to rag it.
even though it didn't have a great deal of power, it had enough power. The car didn't weigh a lot. The visibility is amazing. I mean, you can see why the cars were not only popular then, but why they're still popular. Because you could use a car like that every day. And it's just so easy. You know, you could get in a car park or have to turn around in the middle of the street. And it's just such an easy car to drive. It's incredible. And there's just something about it that makes you smile in a way that modern cars just don't.
No, I'd agree with that.
Anybody younger who hasn't experienced a car of that era, you know, if you get the chance, don't try one.
Yeah, obviously the closest thing that I will have driven to that, or the closest things, shall I say, previously or prior to that, was the Mini, which of course still got in my life, which is, despite the fact that it's a 1990s car, it still feels very much like it was made in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
You know, despite the fact, obviously, it's got 12-inch wheels, which is obviously larger than the 10s it would have come with and such. The next closest thing I would have driven to that, though, is the Mark III Astra that my mum had. But even then, that was round a field when I was about 10 years old, you know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you've driven the Mark 1 Gans, didn't you? Obviously, so even though they are sort of a bit more refined than cars of the 1980s, they still sort of feel close to an 80s car than they do contemporary cars today. Again, it's just that sort of agility and I think the fact that they're just not overly complicated with technology that we don't need.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, as somebody who didn't grow up at a time when the 205 was the most popular thing since sliced bread, basically, you obviously hear of the hype. You hear from other people out there who have said, "Oh, this was the car of my youth. This is what I was going to drive, but insurance wouldn't let me for various different reasons, you know." But
Yeah,
even just a humble 1.1 like David's, it actually was a really, really nice experience. Like the gear change in it was smooth, it was comfortable. As you
yeah.
said, it was light and airy. You could see out pretty much every direction you could possibly want.
Well, effectively, Davies were kind of a run-out model because it's very, very late 205 for the United
Hmm.
Road. A bit like Renault did with the Renault 5. Obviously, we didn't get the Mark 1 Twingo in the UK, but Renault continued the production of the 5 as a budget model in only one trim level. Well, Peugeot did a similar sort of thing with 205.
Yeah,
But even though it was an 1100, but they managed to squeeze about 60 horsepower out of it, gave it a 5-speed gearbox. David's actually had quite a nice trim with the velour and electric windows and things as well, which was obviously quite nice considering that effectively that would have been the budget model at the time. I think Peugeot had
yeah.
one out, didn't they? The 206, I think, came about 98 with the Mark II Clio.
Was
So,
it? Yeah, it was 98, wasn't it? It's not. It's either late 97 or early 98, something like that.
yeah, is David's about 94, 95, I think, from memory.
Oh, I'm gonna have to remember. I think it was 1995.
Yeah. So yeah, at the time, if you walked into your local Peugeot dealer, you would have had a choice of a 106 or
Hmm.
the 205.
Yeah,
Sort of
but
strange that Peugeot kind of went with a lower number as it's suggesting a smaller car, but
the
whereas
thing with, I was going to say, sorry, the thing with the Peugeot 205 is, to Peugeot, that car was pretty much the savior of the company.
yeah,
It really got them out of a lot of financial issues, didn't it? To be perfectly honest,
oh yeah,
on
absolutely.
hence why on some cars, such as David's one, you have a little sticker on there that says "Sacre Numero," which obviously for us British translates as "sacred number." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, like I say, it was the bread and butter. I mean, Peugeot did have the 309, which was never intended to be a Peugeot from the outset. And then they had the excellent 405 as well. And you got to think Peugeot did actually have a reputation at that time, believe it or not,
Hmm.
for really rugged, robust vehicles. Some of which I imagine are probably still being driven around Africa as taxis to this very day.
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, the cars that we don't necessarily see here in the UK, there are still quite a lot of in Central Europe. You know,
Yeah,
like I recently had a friend of mine actually do a road trip through France to Italy, and when he went through France, he said there are so many Megane classics here. It's like, yeah, I'm not surprised. They were really popular in France. They were just sold terribly here by comparison.
well, it's strange actually because it, obviously I've been doing a lot of research online and I found a lot of there's groups for the Megane Coupe. It seems a really popular car in Argentina of all places. So again, sort of South America, Eastern
Yeah.
Europe, a lot of these cars seem to have ended up
Well,
probably out of production here.
well, that's just it. I mean, you know, the ZX I drove not that long ago, actually. I think it was back in January I drove it, and I put the review up last month before, something like that.
Hmm.
I've lost a bit of track of time with this, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, with that, the ZX introduced 1991 and didn't actually end production globally, even if it wasn't necessarily called the ZX or even a Citroen by that point. Ended production 2013
Yeah,
because the Chinese were still making it, even if it wasn't called a Citroen ZX. It's a bit like the Rover 25 over in China. They bought the Rover 25 and obviously the Rover brand and renamed it Rovi or whatever. And SAIC own, I guess, the rights to the MG brand, and they brought a load of other stuff over. It's quite complicated because many different Chinese brands think they own the Rover brand, hence why it doesn't exist anymore.
yeah. Was it
But
SAIC? There
C,
was there was another company, weren't there, that played
yeah,
China?
but SAIC definitely own the brand rights to MG, which is why they make MGs these days and sell them as such.
Yeah,
But the Rover 25, I think, as far as I know, SAIC brought the rights to the mouldings for the 25
yeah,
initially. And then in China, they sold the 25 as the MG3.
Yeah.
And then obviously, when they introduced the new MG3 model, which we here in the UK will know of, yeah, it was a completely different and new shape to what was their MG3, which was essentially to us a Rover 25. It gets very confusing very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a bit like what is it? I think recently the Chinese also got a return of, I think it was the Ford Orion or Ford Escort or something like that,
Right.
which was essentially a Ford Fiesta with a boot.
Yeah.
But we obviously here in Europe we didn't get that. So
Well, it's funny some of the cars you say that they get in other markets because obviously when I filmed at the Classic Motor Show in November this year, we was marking 50 years of the Renault 5. And we actually had a Renault Siete or Renault 7 on the stand, which was essentially a booted saloon version of the Mark 1 Renault 5. And that car was actually built in Spain just for their market.
okay.
So another vehicle that we didn't get, apparently the Mark 2 Clio, there was a saloon version of that in some markets as well.
Yeah.
Another car we didn't get here.
No, I was going to say it is quite interesting that some of these things do still exist. I mean, I think
the Mark 1 as well, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was Argentina or Brazil or Colombia or somewhere like that. The Mark 1 Megane was still in production until about 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Which is quite a long life, to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in, where is it? Is it Argentina? I think they sell the Dacia cars as Renault cars. And they even...
I looked at, well, you can buy a Sandero, I think, in India, badged as a Renault Sandero.
Yeah, you can get them over there, but they actually make a Sandero RS with a 2-litre engine and 0-60 in 8.5 seconds.
Yeah.
But of course, they won't sell a Dacia as a Sandero RS because it's,
I believe
they don't want that fight, I guess.
Was it China that got I think it was the Renault Latitude, and essentially it was
What?
Renault Latitude, I think it was called, and it was essentially its replacement for the Gran. Obviously, we got the Belsatis here in the UK.
I'm trying to figure out what that would look like, but I don't know, so I might have to look it up after this.
To be honest, just a very sort of traditional 3-box saloon car. I'm sure it's called something like the Latitude that was available, I think, in China and maybe some of the markets.
I'm going to look this up. Renault Latitude. That does not look like how I expected it, I'll be perfectly honest. Do you know what it kind of makes me think of, though?
Go on.
It looks to me a little bit of a modern interpretation of a Renault Safrane.
Yeah. I mean, I've not got the picture up on screen, so I've not seen them for a long time. But I do remember sort of when I had the Laguna 2 privilege, and Laguna 3 was out, and I remember sort of Googling and looking and seeing the Latitude. It's a shame actually because when I visited Belgium, when I took the Megane back to where it was old, and they
I need to find out which factory my Megane was built in.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
I know
when it's back, take it up and running.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the same one as mine because that factory closed that same year. But when I was over there, I saw Mark 3 Clio Estate in one of the car parks.
Yep.
In fact, was it Mark? No, Mark 4. Mark 4 Clio Estate.
Yeah, because we don't get that over here, do we?
We don't know. And I also saw the Talisman, which was the replacement for Laguna.
Oh, you have to look up the Talisman. I remember it, but I don't remember what it looks like.
Well, be careful because we actually had a Talisman concept car which looked nothing like the Talisman production car.
Ah.
But in Europe, they got the Renault Talisman. It's essentially the replacement for the Laguna. Never got. The interior, the dashboard, looks very much like a Mark 4 Megane. In fact, the styling is very much like a larger Mark 4 Megane. I think they look at the saloon and the estate. So the car I actually would have liked to have seen here, Jake, really is a sort of spiritual successor to your Megane Classic. They actually produced a Mark IV Megane. What did they call it now? Something like a sports sedan or something bizarre like that. Basically, oh no, the Grand Coupe, that's it. They did the Mark IV Megane Grand Coupe. It's a four-door saloon. But what really gets me is that they actually sell that car in Ireland as a right-hand drive Megane saloon, but we never got it in the UK.
Oh, I'll have to go over to Ireland to buy one then. I
What
guess.
gets me though is if Renault has spent the money on
Oh, I
putting the
know.
steering wheel on the right-hand side, why did they offer it in the UK?
Maybe our market isn't strong enough for the saloons. I mean, I don't know how well the Mark One and the Mark Two sold, but evidently the Mark Three didn't have a saloon version per se. You had the Fluence, which was obviously electric.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did we get a saloon version here? I seem to think we did get a saloon version of the Mark III.
Did we? I don't remember one. I know we got the Estate and the Hatch and the Coupe as well, and obviously the Scenic.
Yeah.
But I don't remember seeing a saloon other than the Fluence, which, for all intents and purposes, underneath was a Megane, but with electric motors and such.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember now. I saw the Fluence actually, only a few weeks ago.
Oh, really? I've not seen one in years, to say the least.
Yeah, I saw the pale blue one. To be honest, I think everyone that I've ever seen has been pale blue.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah. No, it's been ages since I've seen one.
Yeah, I imagine technology-wise, that car's probably more akin to a Nissan Leaf. It's,
Probably, yeah. Especially with obviously the Renault Nissan alliance, you kind of expect them to share stuff between each other for that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, obviously, as you're aware, I've had quite a few different Renaults. I've never owned a Peugeot. Obviously, I've reviewed David's 205. More
Yep.
recently, I've actually driven the 406 V6. But that's a video that's still to edit. I think quite a while before that was Rates cover.
Yep.
But yeah, so I've had to go in a few Peugeots. I have actually had a Citroen. I've had one Citroen.
Oh, have you?
And yeah, I've had in 2013. I had a DS3 for a couple of years.
Oh, I like the DS. I like the DS3. I actually had a drive in it's a 1.2 PureTech, I think it was.
Oh, right.
Convertible, very briefly, but I did actually like that.
When I got mine, I think the 1.2 PureTech came a little bit later because that's the small turbo, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a 1.2 out. I think there was 1.6 normally aspirated. Mine was the THP, which is turbocharged 1.6.
Oh yeah, the same engine as the BMW Minis, isn't it? That one.
That's right. It was essentially a D-tube version of the racing. So mine was they had the D sign and D style. D Sport was sort of the higher end one. Well, mine was a D Sport Plus, so it was the larger engine, the more powerful engine, but the Plus added things like the leather upholstery and a few other subwoofer in the back and a few other bits of equipment. But it was a nice car. It had the carbon effect dashboard in it as well. It was a D-tube version of the racing, so that was 155 horsepower in that, guys. I think over the years it went from a 150, a 155. I think they ended up at about 160 odd horsepower for the D Sports at some point. There was an Ultra Prestige as well, which that I remember those had like a white leather interior, looked a bit like inside a Countach or something. So, but not the most practical of interiors, admittedly.
No, I mean, okay, let's look to the future then. For you and for me, do you have any French cars lined up for review coming up soon? Maybe not necessarily video coming soon, but you filming them coming soon. I mean,
it's difficult because, for example, I was offered an XM for review, which I was quite looking forward to doing.
Yep.
And then I ended up selling the car because it spent more time in the garage than it did on the road. So it's a bit difficult. I think this was a Mark I Gunner.
Yep.
Which I was quite looking forward to reviewing. Obviously, the 406 I mentioned that's to come that I've actually filmed that, so that will be definitely coming to the channel at some point soon. Obviously, I've got two Renaults.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they will be getting some video content based on those as well.
I mean, on my front, I have the Ami supposedly coming up soon, which will be quite exciting. I'm looking forward to that one. A Citroen C1 as well.
Yeah.
And whilst not strictly French, probably the Sandero as well.
Yeah. Obviously, there's the factor I mentioned earlier as well. I'm hoping that I'll get that for review.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
VT.
the thing is, I have actually filmed the Sandero once, but because I have the luxury of being able to film it time and time again as and when I want to, I wasn't very happy with how that video turned out. It was done in a bit of a rush. It was a very hot day. And because you're filming in public, and as soon as you lift the bonnet up on your car when you're in public to do any sort of under bonnet shots, people will flock over and say, "Oh, are you okay?" Which is very, very sweet and very kind of them. But also, when you're trying to do a review, it's not the easiest thing in the world.
I think finding locations in general can be quite a challenge, can't it? I mean, was it
Yeah.
Chelsea pulled up outside the house and somebody came and moved him on quite recently?
Yes, that's just it, isn't it? I mean, trying to find a suitable location is not always the easiest. I mean, I want to review my Fiat Panda 100 HP at some point, but I want to find somewhere I think that's going to fit in with the vibe that the car gives off.
Yeah. I
But
must
then,
admit, I've been interrupted a few times trying to film car reviews. People like say asking what you're doing, or taking it's finding sort of public places. I mean, I'm quite fortunate. I have done a few and used the motorist as a base to work on because it offers somewhere for the person whose car it is to get some refreshments. But obviously, I've done it by prior arrangement, so I've spoken to them beforehand just to make sure that they're not filming bangers and cash or anything like that. And I've been quite fortunate in that sense. But even finding routes to go on, places where if you wanted to film drive-by shots, finding places where you can actually have somebody with a camera, it's not that easy, is it?
no, that's it. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, I think the Megane for me was my first review that I did on the channel because I knew at the time I was going to be reviewing the MG5 because Joseph, for those who don't know, Joseph Lloyd, good friend of both of us, has Lloyd Vehicle Consulting as his YouTube channel. He was getting the MG5 press car, as it was at the time, and he also offered for me to review it, which is very kind of him. So I had to take him up on it. But because I'd never done a review on a car before, I thought, well, I'll have a bit of experience on my own car. And to be perfectly honest, out of the 3 cars, I guess, I'm glad I did the Renault because I wouldn't be having that opportunity at the minute.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. We haven't had any fresh comments for a while, Jake, and we're running at about nearly an hour and a half, and I think my battery is starting to get quite low. So I think we might have to wrap this up quite soon.
Okay. I'm happy to wrap this up quite soon because, well, as you say, we've been going for nearly an hour and a half. It's quite a long time to be speaking about French cars for.
Yeah, and we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, we haven't discussed the V6 Clio, which I could have probably discussed for quite a considerable length of time.
Yep.
And obviously, no end of Megane content that I could have spoken about.
No, and that's it. I mean, one thing I would like to discuss before you do go is at the Beaulieu Auto Jumble, I managed to find this. I don't know how well that's showing up.
Oh, very nice.
But these, incredibly rare in the UK, can't seem to find them anywhere.
No. I've got quite a bit of memorabilia. Well, I've got quite a few die-cast models of various cars, including a lot of Renaults. And a lot of other memorabilia, things like a Megane phone card and a scenic pen.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, some stuff is getting quite collectible now.
And the thing is, I mean, I've got currently 3 Megane Classics because I bought one, that particular one broke, and then I bought another one, and then, bless his heart, Joseph bought me one when my actual car broke, which is very kind of him.
Yeah.
Looking at my collection, I also have Renault Sport Spider.
Yeah.
Megane Hatch, Megane Coupe, Megane Maxi as well. In fact, I've got 2 coupes and one is for you. Because I thought, well, it's a yellow and you might like it. So I picked it up for you to show. Oh no, Mark is either frozen or he's disappeared. Oh well, I think Mark's phone may have just died on this there. Unless he's about to come back. I don't know. Yep, Mark's phone has just shut down. Well, in that case then, I shall have to bring this to a close. So thank you very much for watching the live stream. If you're not already subscribed to Mark's channel, please do go and check out his content. It is very good. And obviously, if you like French cars and things, he is very much the man to go and look at. But yes, thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this live stream for May, it's been a little while since we've done one. So hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have done, please do leave a like because it helps me out and obviously go and help Mark as well. Obviously, more car-based content. Please click subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. My link, if you follow the Fuel Power YouTube channel and any of the other socials, you can find me on there. But yes, thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next video and or live stream. So until then, farewell. And this is the awkward part where I've got to sort of go away and click a button and not have a good and subtle outro. But yes, thanks for watching. See you soon.